Good morning, everyone. Today I have the honor of introducing two remarkable women that are champions of the slow food movement, heroes of many of the folks in this room, and have dedicated their lives to introducing the concept of good, clean, and fair food to children at a very early age. Farmer Kim and the founder of the Edible Schoolyard, Alice Waters. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. It's bright and early, and we're happy that you're here today. And I'm so honored to be here on this stage with Alice Waters. This is going to be a really interesting conversation because we both have been digging into the school garden movement and the edible education work for a long time. She's got a lot longer than I have, but she has created a pathway for me to do my work. So, Alice, what personal or cultural influence gave you the courage to go against the grain and gave you some early edible education?
Well, I was born in Chatham, New Jersey, and right at that time, everybody in Chatham, everybody everywhere had a victory garden to grow vegetables so that people, they had enough to send to Europe for the war. And my parents had that their whole lives. Wherever they moved, they planted those seeds. But it wasn't just the victory garden, it was taste for me. I will never have a strawberry as good as that one was. And the little tomatoes, because you have something in New Jersey, humidity, different. No, but that's needed for those strawberries, maybe for the tomatoes too. But I've never had ones that good anyplace else. I mean, I'm sure all along the East Coast there are gardens, but the idea of that victory garden, I talk about it all the time, so it must have been really impressive to me in lots of ways. And I know that my parents shared the products from their garden with the people across the street. So we were all sharing and eating together. Maybe that's where all my activism came from.
And the joy that goes with that, and just that, the taste and being a part of the people, and the memories, though, at a young age really impact what happens later in life. So edible education for children is super important. So you have Shape and A's, and you have the Edible Schoolyard, and you've done so much work in your life to push the needle on this movement. But what was your moment when you were doing this work in the beginning that you said, okay, I'm on to something, this is really going to take root and this is going to grow?
Well, I think that any of us who sort of graduated from the free speech movement in Berkeley in 1965 knows and feels what I felt, which was empowerment. You go and you do this thing, and that was really what Mario Safio said to me. Take your junior year off, visit another country. Well, I think you all know where I went. Paris. But that did change my life. Not just the beauty of the plates and all the ways that they encourage students to be part of the culture of Paris, free tickets to students to go to the opera, to go to museums. I mean, it's something so valuable, and that certainly wasn't happening here at that time.
And so that empowerment, but a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of work to do this work, and you incorporated your friends and got
But it's not hard if you love it.
Right.
I mean, it's hard if you don't. And it's made me really think about what is work. Because we had to define it in a way that it's not something desirable. And I have never had, maybe a few days where I felt like it was work. It's always a pleasure for me. And our Surgeon General, he thinks the biggest really health issue for this country is loneliness. And of course, that fits right together with meaningless work. You're driving to the factory, working there all day, eating out of a vending machine, driving in traffic all the way back. I drink a bottle of scotch, I think. No, I don't like scotch. I band over.
I love that. So how can we get more young students excited about agriculture, education, career pathways that lead to real jobs?
Well, I think you all know that I started the Edible Schoolyard Project 30 years ago, right now. And I guess it's the same feeling that I've had knowing that Chez Panisse is 54 now, and that I knew from the very beginning that we were going to find that food that tasted like the food I'd eaten in France. And of course, you all know the story that Bob Kennard found us. And that was the beginning of just this rapport with the most important person for making a restaurant delicious. And Bob was a regenerative organic farmer, and this was 40 years ago, or about 35. And he said to me, that's really important, the regenerative. I said, Bob, I don't even know what organic is. Are you sure I will understand? He said, when my garden has all those little bugs in it, the worms and the beetles and the ants and that's all the thing, they create some not only nutrition for the soil, but they pull down what's not supposed to be up there and they put it in the ground. I said, okay, Bob, you can call it organic regenerative, but I just don't think I can put that on the menu until now.
That's awesome. What are the best strategies for sustaining momentum in school garden movement, given all the recent funding cuts, loss of resources for so many nutrition and garden-centered programs?
Well, I think the biggest issue and the most important one is changing the food in schools, because that's the place where you can really see something happen. I've always known, I was in school where we all sat down to eat. Mind you, that was when we had this white bread and sugar, but the fact that we all sat at the table, and for years of my school life, and it's a way to know people. And we do, at the Edible Schoolyard, we have these 3 big tables, and the teacher is teaching geography of Japan. And so today's lesson is making tacos. Oops, no, it isn't. No, that was not Mexican, that was last week. To making sushi, but seeing is believing. That these teenage kids are completely engaged, and they're learning the lessons, and they're going to succeed, and it's true, on their tests. So it's Montessori's belief that our senses are the pathways into our minds, and I know that that is deeply true for me. But I know that it is for the kids that I taught when I taught Montessori. But this idea, when you think about it, it's so important right now. It's really about nature. Almost 7,500 schools.
That's great.
The fine print.
Simply one school where we did a teaching at the end of each year, and we invited people across the country. But we started schools just to make sure that it worked in every climate and every culture. So we started one in Louisiana, and we started one in way up in New Hampshire. We started one in New York. We started one in LA. What am I missing? Middle of the country.
That's amazing.
And so once they got started, we helped them do fundraising. But once they got started, they didn't need us anymore, which is, again, for that. And so it's like, no, they didn't need us to help them anymore, because they created their own classrooms in the building and out in the garden. I went to see one recently in Harlem, and I was surprised that they had to keep their black top and lots of things, but they figured out how to do these planter boxes, and they were very inventive with the whole project. And during the hurricanes in New Orleans, these kitchen places in schools were enormously helpful.
We find that in North Texas, we're helping people build school gardens, and there's been some recent studies. The UT Austin has done the Eden Project, and there's some indicators of what a successful school garden is going to look like. The number one support is the administration, and if you don't have the admin support, it's just not going to work. So when we go into schools and we're talking about building gardens, they go, oh yeah, just put it out there, we'll be great. And we're like, no, you need to have a team, you need to have a community, you need to build it. But once we give them a playbook of things like that, they do run with it. Yeah. And they do text me and say, what's this bug, or what's on this leaf, or whatever. But you have to empower them, because it's not our school garden, it's their school garden. And if you give them a footprint and a roadmap and protocol, they can use their community to make it the garden that they want.
Right now, I'm just obsessed about thinking of how, particularly in the slow food circumstance, how we can affect climate quickly. And I know that handing on those doors of school lunch is a lot of work. And I know that connecting, though, with farmers who want to bring their produce to the school is something enormously desirable on both sides, and particularly on the side of the farmer. And I'm calling this school-supported agriculture because we had such a successful farmers market resurgence around the whole country in the last 10 years. I mean, it's not possible to go to even a little town and not find a farmer's market where people can directly buy their food and give that money to the people who need it. And that's what could happen in schools. And I know I've just written this book, a lot of people that know, it's called The School Lunch Revolution. And we are certain that we can fit into the USDA reimbursement if it stays, if it's there at all. But having your own food is really, really important. And that's why I'm just saying, let's get those victory gardens back on everybody's front lawn. No more grass. No more grass. And then the way that we bought food, really, from the very beginning, because I wanted it to taste like the food in France. And that's how we found Steve Sullivan to make us bread. And I wanted that taste. And it was when I tasted the food of Bob Kennard, I found it. But then I started finding farmers all over. They all wanted to sell to us because we paid them the real cost. And we also very often paid them with compostable food waste, and that was great too. But they are the most important people for me because I'm not a farmer. And I know, though, and respect so much the work that they do. I know it in great detail, and it's why I only go to farmers markets when I can, wherever they are.
That's great. The school lunch program, cafeteria program, is the biggest fast food business in our country. And so I'm really happy that people are stepping up against it because a lot of it's education too, and also facilities. I know in Texas it's really hard to get into the cafeteria. We have been able to sneak our garden food in with their salad bar days. But we just have to keep pushing and advocating for this.
There's a little project over in Marin County, and it's, I'm forgetting her name.
Sam is the chef.
But
Sam,
yeah,
the chef.
The Conscious Kitchen.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. And this is a woman who just was incredibly persuasive and imaginative. And she talked to I'm sure she fed the principal of the school these ideas. I find that very effective. Invite them to shake and eat, and continue to invite them. But she first talked to Strauss Dairy, and she said, would you sell us milk in big containers? And we're going to have a cafeteria in the gymnasium. We're bringing in long tables. We're bringing in chairs. We're setting those tables. And we're putting real glasses on the tables. And we're pouring Strauss Dairy milk into those glasses. Well, they invited me for this event. And I looked at that glass of milk in front of me, and I was back in third grade and not wanting to drink my milk. But I couldn't not drink it with all the kids there. I picked it up, and I'll tell you, it was wonderful. I wish I had another glass right now. But I forgot about that taste of milk, that taste from the regenerative organic cattle that they have out there in Marin. But this is somebody who was willing to take a risk. Just like, it's a calculated risk to do something like the Edible Schoolyard. But you are doing it with a sense of care that's almost unimaginable in the schools because they just don't have enough teachers, enough help, and to have a whole team of people that are ready to paint the walls or do whatever's needed. And that's the part that has been so educational to me at Japanese, that we have a place for everybody to eat the same food that we serve to the diners. They stop and eat between the two seatings downstairs, and there's places for them to eat lunch everywhere around the restaurant. But we're cooking the same food. And that is so important. And we invite the farmers in to have it with us. And I always wanted a place in the design of cafeteria at a school to bring the farmers in to have a glass of tea or whatever you're doing. And this one young woman, we did an event in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian. We called it Climate Food Hope, and we've got some flyers for it if you want them afterwards. But I wanted to prove that we could serve this organic regenerative lunch to like 75 teachers and farmers and people from around the country, and buy it all locally and within the USDA amount. And we did it, and they loved it. And I wrote a book about it, which is coming out in School Lunch Revolution. But we are being fed the ideas that it's not possible financially. Kids don't like to eat apples and soup, and no. And also, they don't like to sit together. And they don't even like to help clean up. Well, I'd like to report to the contrary, that there are little kids at the Edible Schoolyard at the end that are picking up crumbs off the floor. And I just say, who taught them? And it's like it does kind of magically happen when you are saying how precious this apple is that this farm produced. Oh God, we dropped some on the floor. You know, it's like it happens on its own. You don't have to teach kids even collaboration if they're curious. You just set up the situation where they do collaborate. There are 8 kids at a table and 3 tables of 8 in the kitchen. And they're all, and you'll have to come and see. We're going to make a film about it, but these are teenage kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, who just connected. No, but it just shows, I think, 22 different backgrounds in that school. And it just shows that if you give them that responsibility, they take it, and they love it.
And food is an amazing connector of people, and it doesn't matter what language you speak or being able to communicate, but yum and thumbs up and delicious and the smiles, but it brings back food memories that creates connections, but it also, when you have students that are from different regions or different places, it brings their personal knowledge to the table, and then they're sharing, and it's a beautiful thing, especially when kids plant the seeds, harvest the produce, prepare the food, and then sit with glasses on tablecloths on beautiful tables, and take pride in that, and they'll remember things like that forever.
I think the saying of Esther Cook, who was our first cook, Esther Cook. She was an artist, and she said something very profound to me. She said, beauty is a language of care. So she wanted the tables to really look like that they were set for each other. And it was amazing how she did this. She just said, find a little something. Choose what you would like to put at the center of the table. I'll never forget this one kid brought this little tiny food and filled it with flowers. But it's the empowerment of the kids that really has them engaged and
they tend to stay that way for their entire life. I mean, you're developed by the time you're 5. You're the person you're going to be, and so giving them experiences at this young age and teens and the empowerment of it and just the taste and the joy. You know, that it's not just taking something out of plastic and cramming it in your mouth and going outside to play, but there's joy to this, and so that bringing that to the table is beautiful.
Well, 2 people, I have to tell you this story because it's so great. 2 were in the 8th grade class at King when we started. And they ended up wanting to volunteer in the kitchens of Chez Panisse. And then they got married. And then they opened a little Middle Eastern restaurant around the corner from Chez Panisse. And they make the most delicious little organic Middle Eastern dishes, and they're to go, and they have their kids working in their shop, and it's just such a delight to see that whole cycle. And of course they're providing now with lunches for me.
And you just never know the impact that you're going to make with littles and younger people, and sometimes you don't know what their outcome is, but you hope that what you present to them and provide with them and work with them, that's going to carry them later on in life, like it did with my grandfather and you with your family in the Victory Gardens, and it just keeps going, and it's beautiful when you get to see those kinds of things come from that. So that's wonderful. That's great. I love that. So in this political climate, which is happening, it's difficult for educators to continue to focus on school gardens, farm to school movement, and healthy food access for kids. But what kind of pressure can food justice people that are in this space provide to prioritize our students, their needs, and their futures? It's a big question.
Well, I can't think of anything quite that important right now. I always am wanting to be at Chez Panisse these days because that's my family, and I sit in the kitchen for dinner, just talking to people. And food has a power of its own, and it just sort of, you taste something really great and you just say, hey, taste this, and it's kind of magic that goes around. But I think it's so important to connect in the kitchen that way with each other, and we've been doing it for a long time because I made a decision to have 2 chefs, me in the downstairs 2 and the upstairs 2 in pastry, and pay them full time. And so they stayed they are still there. One left after 35 years. But it's so great to have that many people who are empowered to share their knowledge with everybody who's in the kitchen. And it's a great way to learn how that person makes it, how that person makes it, how that person makes it. And I think it's contributed to the most important sort of care of the restaurant. all the time by the people who live in it.
The people power, for sure, is the center of it all, and building that community is so important in all aspects. You've built community around the world currently, but it starts in the kitchen or in the garden or in the classroom or at the table or at your own family table. And so that just building that community and adding on to it and valuing the people that are doing it and learning from it and sharing is really powerful.
I don't know whether you know about the American Academy in Rome, but you should know about it because it's my dream academic circumstances where you go and you meet people from all different backgrounds. And it's a beautiful building. It was started by architects who went to the World's Fair in Chicago in the 1880s, and they said, we learned so much from other cultures. Why couldn't there be a place for Americans to go and learn? And so they found the Carnegie money back there in the early part of the 20th century, and they bought 17 acres on the highest hill in Rome. And they built a school that would house Americans for the year that they spent there. And the courtyard that had tables all around it, and a big dining room with a fireplace. And well, I was invited because they were thinking that they should change the food, which they needed to. I said, well, maybe. And they said, well, come and stay for a week or two and see what you think. Of course, living in Rome for 2 or 3 weeks on the highest hill in Rome, Galileo and his telescope. Now, I said, if I can find somebody to cook, it's yes, and I found somebody. And we've been changing. First farmer was regenerative, and he just happened to be. And his son has taken over now that he's gotten older, his family. But that connection of the farm and the school is really beautiful. It's not more work, it's almost less when you make friends. And they are so grateful for the connection. And they talk to the chefs every morning at Shea. I think I told you that. But it's critical.
It's awesome. It's amazing. You're amazing. You've done amazing work. And thank you for all of that. It's incredible. So, speaking of slow food, what is your vision of slow food across the globe, and how do you think that should look in the next 20 years?
Well, you can imagine we only have, how many? 5 till we can't make any effect on climate. And the Bank of America has a fund for people who can make change in a short period of time, and you know how much money they have. Do you know? $1.6 trillion. So somebody is taking this seriously. And if what we have in common is beautiful, it's farmers and schools, and the schools could become that economic engine for farms and ranches around the world. I've said it a lot, and you've probably heard that the mayor of Paris decided to only buy regenerative organic food within 200 miles of Paris. She started this 2 years ago, and she's 2/3 there in that short period of time. So that you know that the farmers are eager for this connection. And if it's straight without a middleman, it's perfect.
If you could wave a magic wand, what one policy change would you make tomorrow? Just one.
Whoa.
Just one.
Just one.
Well, maybe 5. Maybe give us your list.
Quality change. But I mean, I think I would be like the mayor of Paris if I could dictate that purchasing of food straight from the farmers, putting the word out that can happen. That's why I call it school-supported agriculture, because it could bring all those people into the schools. Like the community, it's very connected. And in the conscious kitchen, it turned out many people wanted to help. Many of the parents wanted to help, either in the purchasing food from the farmers markets. And someone from my foundation went to help in the kitchen cooking. And it's just an idea that people know about deeply. And when, they know it's for these kids, and the kids are so grateful. That's the other piece of it.
There's power in the children, for sure. Who are you learning from right now, and whose ideas excite you?
Oh, goodness. The first person that came to my mind was Mother Joffrey, who is a wonderful cook. And but I've been learning a lot from. We had sort of a cook-in at the Edible Schoolyard a couple of weeks ago, and I mean there were cooks from all backgrounds, and the food, all of it was delicious. I also went to the University of Massachusetts. I don't know whether you've gone there or heard about it, but it's a huge school, and they are purchasing food directly from organic sources. But what was so astonishing was the fact that they had a tiny room with long tables, and they had cooks with all different backgrounds, Mexican, Korean, Japanese, and it was, you came at a certain time to get a breakfast or a lunch, and this person would provide the menu. It was such excitement about the food. I haven't seen that in a long, long time, where adults just sit down and read that menu and say, I'll have it all, and then go in the kitchen and thank the chef. So it really can work. And it has to come from the whole family. Excuse me. But another really good thing that's happening right now is that men are taking care of children and cooking and waking up in the night and taking care of the kids. And I think and cooking for them. And this is going to make a beautiful change in the way that we think about food as a nation, and respecting the people who take the time to do it. And of course, loving the farmers who bring you something you just put in your mouth.
And also in valuing the educators who are teaching people and doing this work, because
the teachers and the farmers are my heroes. And I can't say enough about that, because teachers and farmers are honored, most every other country, but we're going to honor the teachers and farmers first. I'm hoping that we can make a big change at the University of California in terms of procurement, in terms of all of these partnerships. I opened a little restaurant at the UCLA campus at the Hammer Museum, so I can feed people the idea down there. But I think it's important in every city that we're really connecting the dots between the farms and the schools. I saw a lot we went through the campus of, was it Wesleyan? What campus? Not Wesleyan. On the way here from LA.
UC Davis.
Yeah, I was just ignoring UC Davis. And they asked me to do a cooking program for them. I still have the design of the building when they're ready. But it was so great to see lots of food from different restaurants of different cultures, of farm stands, of just the feeling of food on that campus.
Alice, do you have any call of action for all these people in the room that are interested in the school garden movement and edible education?
Well, I think it's really important to go visit the schools. I think it really is important. Of course, buying and supporting the farmers directly, nothing better than the farmers market. And so many supermarkets have tried to pick up on that, but there's no substitute for the farmers market, no. And knowing a farm, planting a garden wherever you are is a great thing, a really great thing. I saw a lot of gardens in odd places in LA when I was down there just recently. And I think, it's like plant wherever you can, as much as you can. That Bette Midler's gardens in New York became hugely successful, and they're still happening in vacant lots, and all of a sudden you'll see some vegetables sprouting up or herbs. Amazing.
Well, I have one more question for you. Will you sign my book? I use this all the time with my students, the Alice Waters Trip to Deliciousness, and we talk about your movement and what you've done, and just the tiny things that all people can make, especially kids, and it empowers them. And we start this off every year when we do our culinary pieces of our school garden, and so I would love it if you would sign it for me.
Well, I think I could do that.
I have a Sharpie. I've got it all. I also want to give you all a call of action, because I want you to look at the people around you, and I challenge you to meet 10 people here at Terre Madre Americas and get their information and find out what they do and dive deep, because people are so great about sharing in the slow food movement. If you're not involved in the slow food movement, I challenge you to get involved, to start a chapter, to be a part of it, to just connect with what's going on in your local food system. I know this is California, and if you're from California, you guys are ahead of Texas for sure. We've got a lot of work to do down there.
Do olive oil.
Okay, all right. Oh yeah, we can in Texas, the olive oil, and I do buy Texas olive oil. But small acts by many can make change. And will you join us in these efforts?
Yes.
Thank you. Will you stand up for food education in schools? Will you take action to ensure that every child has opportunities to learn about food and develop a healthy relationship with it? Together we can make a difference. Together we can create a brighter future and more sustainable future for all of us. So let's blaze some snail trails across the country and across our world. And thank you, Alice, for being my inspiration and so many people in this room. It's been great. Thank you so much.